How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. Ben Wallace will have to wait another year in order to make the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. After being named the finalist this year, unfortunately, he didn't make the cut. Big Ben retired in the 2012 season, one of the best defenders the game has ever seen. A lot of young people today who never saw Ben Wallace play might think his stats might not be that good, but here's how incredible Ben Wallace really was.
The Alabama native grew up playing multiple sports, attended Central High School in Haynesville, where he received all-state honors in basketball, baseball, and football as a linebacker. The summer after his sophomore year, he attended a basketball camp in York ran by Charles Oakley. From then on, Oakley believed in Wallace's basketball abilities. However, things weren't easy at first. After Wallace was not given any single Division I scholarship offer for basketball, Wallace was actually heavily recruited as a football player. Given his size and strength, the Auburn Tigers even extended him a full ride offer as a two-way player, but Wallace loved basketball too much to abandon the sport. Young Ben and his idol Oakley remained close. The NBA forward even made some calls on Wallace's behalf, called a friend in Cleveland to offer Ben a spot at Cuyahoga Community College, a small school near Cleveland, Ohio. Averaged 24 points, 17 rebounds, and 7 block shots. After 2 seasons, still no D1 schools accepted his transfer. Oakley once again stepped in, reached out to his alma mater, Virginia Union University, a Division II school, got Wallace onto the team in '94, transformed himself into a relentless rebounder, shot blocker, and one of the top small college teams in the country, led the Panthers to back-to-back Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association championships, but went undrafted in the loaded historic 1996 class, had to play in Italy before finally making it to the big stage. He still had plenty of work to do in order to get better. Model his game similar to his idol Oak, spent his first 3 seasons with Washington, didn't get much playing time. His most memorable moment in the 90s was getting badly dunked on by Kobe Bryant in a preseason game. By his 3rd season, he did average over 8 rebounds, 2 block shots, made his presence felt by outworking and out-hustling everybody, always put in the heavy work, especially in the weight room. Made some noise after being traded to the Orlando Magic in summer of '99, solidified his role as the starting center, undersized, listed at 6'9", if you count his afro, was actually closer to 6'7", started 81 games, put up 4.8 points, 8.2 boards for a 41-win team, traded Wallace alongside Chucky Atkins as compensation in a sign-and-trade deal for free agent superstar Grant Hill to Detroit. Considered a one-side deal at the time, Wallace was the man in the middle, with Jerome Williams at the 4, listed at 6'9", only weighted at 206. Detroit was the most undersized team, but speed and aggression made up for it. Wallace finished second in the NBA, snatching over 13 rebounds, rejected nearly 2.5 shots, still failed to make the playoffs, winning only 32 games, but put the world on notice in the 01-02 season, led the league in rebounds at 13 a game, along with 3.5 block shots, earned respect by winning Defensive Player of the Year, was named All-Defensive First Team and All-NBA Third Team, became the heart and soul of the Pistons, won 50 games, opened his playoff debut with a 19-point, 20-rebound effort against Toronto, was putting up Dennis Rodman-like numbers, grabbed 20-plus boards in 3 of his 10 playoff games in 02, lost to Paul Pierce's Celtics in the second round. At 28 years old in 2003, Wallace snatched a career-best 15.4 rebounds, led the league again, winning back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year, became the first and only undrafted player in history to make the All-Star team, even started. From a kid growing up in Alabama, not getting any D1 basketball scholarship offers, not getting drafted, Wallace's career at this point was already an amazing success story. At the height of his powers, he was the best defensive player for his generation. From 2003 to 2006, Detroit finished top 5 in defensive efficiency. Even though his offense was one of the worst in NBA history and bad to watch, his impact defensively was a lot more vital than offensive players who average over 20 points a game. After the team acquired Rasheed Wallace to improve offensively, the Wallace brothers was a nightmare for any player who dared to get in the paint. Was the perfect combination where she can score on the post, stretch the floor, and Ben would get most of his buckets and tip-ins and open layups. Impacted the game so significantly on the other end, held the Nets to 39% shooting in the semis, averaged 7.8 points but 15.5 rebounds, over 3 block shots against Indy AD in the conference finals, held Jermaine O'Neal to 40% shooting for the series. In an ugly grindfest slow-paced series, Detroit averaged just 75.2 points but held Indy to 72.7 points on under 35% shooting from the field. Big Ben validated his defensive greatness as the anchor down low, responsible for guarding Shaq in the finals. Although he was half a foot shorter, he was never outworked. His team out-rebounded the Lakers by 8 in the series, despite the franchise making a mistake in drafting bust Darko Milicic, who had a chance to flourish and learn from Ben. He was absolutely useless, so the team had to rely more on the two Wallaces. Although Chauncey Billups won Finals MVP, nobody would have thought the team would win the title before the playoffs started. Ben was the lone all-star on that team in 04, had one of his best all-around games in the clincher, dominated Game 5 with his energy and hustle, finished with 18 points, 22 rebounds, and 3 steals to wrap up the series. His outstanding presence and reputation as a crazy good defender earned him being on the cover of ESPN NBA 2K5. Went on to win his second back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year award in 2005 and 2006. 4 total, tying for most all-time alongside Dikembe Mutombo. Got the best of Shaq again in the 05 conference finals before falling short to Duncan Spurs in 7. The 4-time All-Star alongside Billups, Hamilton, and Rasheed Wallace was the reason why the East came back from double figures, winning the 2006 All-Star game. In an era filled with amazing defensive bigs in Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Jermaine O'Neal, Wallace won those awards over them. That's how amazing he was. Another reason why he made such a huge impact: he couldn't shoot, is the worst free throw shooter in NBA history, had no offensive skill whatsoever, but was one of the most intimidating players, insanely strong and jacked out of his mind, was obsessed putting in work in the weight room, regarded as one of the strongest players in NBA history, listed at 245. His insane block on Shaq in Game 5 of the 06 Conference Finals was one of the most incredible plays anybody has ever seen, sent the big fella to the ground. As powerful as any block there ever was, combined with his athleticism and balance, he was a rock in the paint. Players taller than him had trouble moving him. Even Shaq had his problems trying to score on Ben. Many people thought defense was boring, but Wallace made rebounding and blocking shots fun to watch. Can even bench press around 500 pounds in his prime. Young NBA fans have no idea how great Ben really was. You can't always judge a player's greatness by his stats, but how offensive players today dominate the game, like how Steph Curry takes over draining threes after threes. Ben Wallace was one of the few players in the history of the game that dominated an outcome of a game by his incredible defense. Every time Wallace made a huge block, the palace was rocking, energy started to build, and fans can sense the momentum completely changing in favor of the Pistons. Detroit fans in the 2000s all know it firsthand. To this day, he remains the only player in NBA history to record 1,000 rebounds, 100 blocks, and 100 steals in 4 consecutive seasons, led the league in defensive win shares 4 times, even received a 4-year $60 million max contract from the Bulls in summer of 06. The team went from 7th in defensive ranking before Ben's arrival to 1st in the NBA. The Pistons were never the same afterwards. Despite still having a solid record, their defense took a dramatic hit. Although Wallace's Bulls lost to his former team in the semis of 07, a huge reason why LeBron went off for 48 points in Game 5 against Detroit. He got to the basket every single time without anybody meeting him at the rim. Wallace would have been the difference maker that series, and the Pistons were no longer title contenders without Ben. Spent a season and a half with Cleveland past his prime, played 3 more years with the Pistons before retiring in 2012 at the age of 37. Had his number 3 jersey retired in the rafters on January 16, 2016, becoming the first player to win 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards in a 5-year span, all with the Pistons, something that might never be done again. Big Ben paved the way for future defensive undersized bigs like Draymond Green, who grew up idolizing Ben. Grew up 72 miles north from the Palace of Auburn Hills, Wallace was a mentor, where Green asked questions about basketball, paid attention to every detail and advice. Was only listed 6'7", went from a 2nd round pick to becoming one of the best defenders, learned from Wallace's work ethic. After Draymond won Defensive Player of the Year in 2017, his idol surprised him, presented Green with the trophy, smiled happily as if he received the best Christmas present of his life. Without Wallace, there would be no Draymond. Without Charles Oakley, Wallace probably would have never been in the NBA. What he's done for the game of basketball, after being told he was too small, not good enough, Ben Wallace resembles what hard work is all about. There's no doubt in my mind the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year will get into the Hall of Fame in the near future. Despite never averaging double figures in scoring, he would become the first Hall of Famer to score fewer than 6 points a game.
Based on his career numbers, many of you might think Ben Wallace is just an average role player. He was offensively, but defensively, he made such a huge impact. He was a top 15 to top 20 player in his prime. If Ben Wallace was playing in the NBA today, he would win at least 5 Defensive Player of the Year awards, be by far the best defender, and his greatness doesn't get talked about enough. Thank you so much for watching this video. I talk NBA comparisons, amazing storylines, NBA history, and anything basketball that will interest you. If you love the NBA, subscribe for more content, more great stuff coming soon. I love all of you. See you next time.